Now that we've verified that our image is what we need it to be, we want to increase the size of the picture. We want to make it as concentrated a picture as we can, because we're going to make corrections. And every time you make a correction, you change the pixels in the entire image. So you want to adjust the definition and the sharpness. You don't want it too clear, because then you see pieces, little seams in the plastic and stuff like that. So then you may want to adjust the temperature. Sometimes you do. I usually don't anymore at the beginning, because it changes the infusion of the color in the figure. So you might want to put a little bit. I'm going to put a little more pink in this. And then I'm going to take the saturation down just a tad, because we're going to darken this image. And when we do, it'll lose some definition there. So now we've got an image that is where we want it color-wise. The resolution's good enough. So now we're going to move on to the next phase. So we'll save this. Now, the next stage in this process is I begin to remove the seams and joints that make it easy to identify this as a toy, which is the main purpose of this whole process, is to minimize the resemblance to a toy and make it look more like a comic book image. So I tend to try and erase the reflections, but a lot of times it doesn't sense them, which is one feature of my phone that I don't particularly care for. So then you want to go in, you'll find that adjusting the pixels, sometimes you have to come at it from an angle you don't expect. And you'll also notice that the steadier your hand is, the better results you'll get. Sometimes you can find yourself winding up in a bit of a boondoggle as you adjust these pixels, because if it gets too far away from you, then you wind up having to figure out how to how that blurred his jawline there. It's not worth it to me to make this small correction where you can't really see where his neck joins the head. So I'm going to just leave that like it is. Now we move on to shoulders. This particular figure has a chest plate over where they put the cape in. So you need to make that look a little more natural to his shoulder. And then you can take out that joint where the beginning of his musculature on his shoulder is. Try and lessen it. I don't like how straight that is, but it's difficult to do it another way without causing that to become problematic. So we'll just go through, and as you can see, you'll watch and you'll see the key to this is to make very small changes. And you want to stay within the shadow changes and tone variations in the image. Follow the shadow and you'll produce an image that is more believable. Whereas if you don't, you'll have an image that has a bunch of lines across it. And now I've found that fixing this seam where it comes to with his wrist joins the arm, that lower forearm, and take that out. Now, there's a couple of areas you're going to find difficulty with. One of them is the abdomen, because in order to articulate this figure, there's a pivot point in here in the middle. So when you turn it to access a different pose, you're going to create an odd area because his abdominal muscles are not going to move like they would if it was a living figure. So you want to try and get this as close as you can, but this shadowy area here can play hell on trying to do that. So now this next problem area becomes the rib, where the end of the rib cage is, because there's nothing really joining this together like there is in a body. So there. Now, Superman has enough musculature that you can get by with a correction that small, because, ordinary people don't have that kind of muscles, those kind of muscles. So then come over here. We want to remove this. And we want to do this, like I said, a little bit at a time. The more you remove at a time, the more the less authentic your image will look. Pardon me, I have something in my eye, which is crazy.